Rees Mogg refuses to back down on shock claim Treasury's fiddling figures on Brexit. The Brexiteer first raised the point in the Commons on Thursday when he asked Brexit Minister Steve Baker to confirm if he had heard from Charles Grant, of the Centre for European Reform think tank, that Treasury officials had deliberately developed a model to show all options other than staying in the customs union were bad. Mr. Baker initially said the claim was essentially correct and extraordinary. But Mr. Grant strongly denied the claim, and the minister later backtracked after a recording of Mr. Grant's comments was published. Rees Mogg has refused to apologize for his claims or budge on his position. Speaking to BBC Radio 4's Today program, he said, "The only thing I'll apologize for is that it's turned out to be much more serious than I thought." The Tory MP added that he still believed the Treasury was fiddling figures. Mr. Rees Mogg said, "What I'm talking about is the way the Treasury has behaved both before and after the referendum. If you look at the forecasts the Treasury made before the referendum, they were a humiliation. They were clearly politically influenced. The OBR, the Office of Budget Responsibility, was set up by George Osborne because Treasury forecasts had been politicized and it was thought they were unreliable on political grounds. With the referendum and with the EU, the Treasury has gone back to making forecasts. It was politically advantageous for them in the past. It is the same now. So yes, I do think they are fiddling the figures." Appearing alongside Mr. Rees Mogg, Mr. Grant said he was surprised the Brexiteer had not apologized for his claims and repeated that he had not said what Mr. Rees Mogg claimed he had. He said, "Mr. Baker, a very honorable man, has apologized to me and to the House of Commons for saying things that weren't quite right. I am surprised that Mr. Rees Mogg hasn't apologized." An audio recording of Mr. Grant's comments was published on Thursday, leading Brexit Minister Steve Baker to apologize to Mr. Grant. Mr. Baker said he answered the question based on an honest recollection of the conversation. He added, "As I explained yesterday, I considered what I understood to be the suggestion being put to me as implausible because of the long-standing and well-regarded impartiality of the civil service. The audio of that conversation is now available and I am glad the record stands corrected. In the context of that audio, I accept that I should have corrected or dismissed the premise of my honorable friend's question. I have apologized to Mr. Charles Grant, who is an honest and trustworthy man. As I have put on record many times, I have the highest regard for our hard-working civil servants. I'm grateful for this early opportunity to correct the record, Mr. Deputy Speaker. And I apologize to the House." In response to the claims, a government source told Express.co.uk, "It's all nonsense." A Treasury spokesman told the BBC, "The Prime Minister and the Chancellor have said repeatedly that we will be leaving the single market and the customs union. Any suggestion to the contrary is simply false." Mr. Grant later released a statement in which he said he had neither said or implied the Treasury had deliberately developed a model to show that all non-customs union options were bad, with the intention to influence policy. He added, "I recall saying to Steve Baker at a prospect lunch at the Conservative Party conference that I was aware of research that the Treasury had done. This apparently showed that the economic benefits of the UK forging FTAs with third countries outside the EU were significantly less than the economic costs of leaving the customs union." The comments emerged in a week where a flawed, incomplete economic impact analysis was leaked to a pro-EU website from Whitehall suggesting that the least damaging Brexit was to stay under EU rule in the single market and customs union.